Hello boys and girls, today we're going to read Little Miss Helpful by Roger Hargreaves. Are you ready? Are you sitting down? Okay, I hope you're comfortable. Okay, Little Miss Helpful by Roger Hargreaves. Little Miss Helpful was one of those people who have to help other people, but who ends up helping nobody. Do you know what I mean? I mean, for instance, like the time when one of Mr. Tall's shoelaces came undone. There's Mr. Tall, and there's his undone shoelace. Now, if you're as tall as Mr. Tall, tying your shoelaces isn't the easiest thing in the world, as you can imagine. "Let me help," cried Little Miss Helpful, rushing up. Then, somehow she managed to tie Mr. Tall's shoelaces together and fell over. And if you're as tall as Mr. Tall, falling over hurts. Bang! "Ouch," he said, rubbing his head. There's Little Miss Helpful. "Let me help," cried Little Miss Helpful, and rushed off to get some sticking plasters, and rushed back and stuck it on Mr. Tall, over his mouth. He said. He was trying to say, "Take it off." But that's rather difficult to do with sticking plaster stuck over your mouth. There's Mr. Tall with the sticking plaster on his head. Little Miss Helpful looked at him with concern. "Let me help," she cried, and ripped the sticking plaster off his mouth. "Ouch!" he cried. "That hurt." "Would you like me to get some cream for your sore mouth?" she asked anxiously. "No," he groaned. "Go away." Now do you know what I mean about people like Little Miss Helpful who help no one? Last year in April, I think it was, Mr. Happy woke up not feeling very well. The doctor had to be called and came to Mr. Happy's house, which is on a hill by a lake. There's Mr. Happy's house. "Oh dear," said the doctor when he saw Mr. Happy. "Measles! Measles!" Mr. Happy's face fell. "Now you have to stay tucked up nice and warm in bed, and get loads of rest, and take this medicine 3 times a day," said the doctor, and went. Mr. Happy settled down to sleep. He'd just fallen asleep when there was a loud knock at his front door. "Oh dear," groaned Mr. Happy, and staggered off to open it. And you can guess who it was, can't you? I've come to help," she cried. "But," protested Mr. Happy. "But nothing," cried Little Miss Helpful. "Now off to bed with you whilst I get on with everything." She looked around. "This place needs a good clean," she said. Oh dear, I wonder how she's going to clean it. There's Mr. Happy with the measles, and there's Little Miss Helpful. Mr. Happy had just dropped off to sleep again when Miss Helpful poked her head around his bedroom door. "Have you got a scrubbing brush?" she asked. Poor Mr. Happy had to get up and show her where it was, and then he went back to bed to sleep. Little Miss Helpful stepped back to admire the kitchen floor she'd just scrubbed, and trod on the soap, and fell over head over heels, and got her head stuck in a bucket, and, because she couldn't see where she's going, walked into a shelf full of saucepans. Dear, that would have caused such a clatter. The saucepans which fell all over the floor with a terrible clatter. I knew it. And, because she couldn't see where she was going, Little Miss Helpful stepped on one of the saucepans and got it stuck on her foot. And because she had to hop, she fell over again, the refrigerator door which flew open, and everything inside fell out. All over Little Miss Helpful. Oh my God, everything in the refrigerator is falling on top of her. Poor Mr. Happy awoke with a jump at the terrible commotion. He groaned, got out of bed, and went to the kitchen and opened the door. He couldn't believe his eyes. There, in the middle of a pile of broken eggs, and a scrubbing brush, and rolling saucepans, and a lot of water, and spilt milk, and squashed butter, and bent saucepan lids, and piece of soap, sat Little Miss Helpful, with a bucket on her head, and a saucepan on her foot. There's Mr. Happy peering around. He's sick, he's got the measles. "Help!" came a voice from inside the bucket. Mr. Happy seized the bucket and pulled as hard as ever he could. And pulled and pulled. There's Mr. Happy trying to get the bucket off of Miss Helpful. Pop! The bucket came off the top of little Miss Helpful's head like a cork out of a bottle. Mr. Happy shot backwards like a bullet from a gun. Crash! He went flying through the kitchen door. Little Miss Helpful's not being very helpful at all, is she? He shot across the garden and straight through his garden hedge. He rolled down the hilly field behind his garden, faster and faster, and splash! He finished up in the lake with the bucket in his hand, and a little figure with a saucepan in one foot came half running, half hopping out of Mr. Happy's place. "Let me help!" she cried. Now you know how that would end up. That's Little Miss Helpful by Roger Hargreaves.